Hey everybody, there's three main questions we keep hearing about, and so I'm going to make a little bit longer video to try to do somewhat of a deeper dive into those three questions. And the three questions are pretty simply, what are interest rates going to do? They've gone up a lot this year. People want to know. What are house prices going to do? Are they going to drop back down and people will be able to get a good deal a year from now? Or are they going to stay high? And third question, and the first two really lead in the third question, is this now a good time to buy a house? So let me start before we get into the nitty gritty of that by stating the obvious. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen next year, or next week, or even tomorrow, really. The markets just change pretty quickly. But since my job as a mortgage professional is to pay attention to that, to listen to analysts and economists and people that get this information and put it together and pay attention to the forecasting and what they say, and also the fact that I'm in the Atlanta market every day, talking to real estate agents, talking to buyers, and keeping my finger on the pulse. So let's go through those things really quickly. Interest rates. Um, Obviously, they've come up. If you're a real estate agent or somebody looking to buy a house, you're paying attention. You see rates going up and up and up, and they seem very, very high. Historically, they're not, but if you're just jumping into the home buying market in the last 6 months, it seems like, oh my gosh, are they ever going to quit? So let's start with some historical numbers to keep it in perspective. If you go back to like 1990s, 2000s, the average 30-year fixed rate in 1990 was about 10%. If you go back to even as recent as 2000s, the average 30-year fixed rate is like upper sixes or sevens. So the rates right now, though they're in the low five or upper fives, low sixes, might sound high, but historically that it's not that high. The other great thing about mortgages in general is you can always refinance later if the rates come down. And there's an expense and a cost to that, yes, but if you just run the numbers and say it's going to cost me this much and save me this much, you see if it makes sense to do it or not. So that's always an option down the line. Most economists pretty much have predicted that we're heading for a mild recession. We've had a lot of inflation, and that's really driven things up. So there, every time we have a recession, interest rates tend to pull back, which indicates probably in 2023, 2024, rates should start coming down from where they are here in 2022. And the forecasts kind of back that up. The Mortgage Bankers Association does some pretty good forecasting, and they are generally pretty close. And they're forecasting that the average rate in 2023 is going to be, I think, in the upper fives, and the average, or excuse me, the upper fours, and the average rate in 2024 is going to be down to the low fours. So we're going to see theoretically lower rates coming up soon. But higher interest rates have kind of cooled off demand, and so we're seeing us a little bit. Where housing inventories were so tight before, we're starting to see them really open up a little bit, and we're seeing a little bit more on the market as buyers are a little hesitant to jump in. And a more balanced market is definitely in at least the buyer's favor. That it's been so one-sided for the last few years, and everything, multiple offers and property selling over list consistently. A little bit of breathing room would be great. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening. Housing prices, we hear a lot of people saying that they're going to wait to buy because they are going to wait for house prices to come down 30 or 40% like they did in the 2007, 8, 9 timeframe during the Great Recession. And the fact of the matter is that's not going to happen. There's a lot that caused that to happen. Most of it was a large amount of money in the world that was looking for a place to invest, a large amount of money. And the market that they found was the United States mortgage market. It had a very long track record of having very stable returns. And so this money started looking for a home in the U.S. mortgage market, and there was a lot of money. And as they came to the mortgage market to buy up mortgage-backed securities, there was so much money flooding in to Wall Street and to the markets that to accommodate all that demand, they started creating new loan programs, and the guidelines got looser and looser, and we all know what happened with that. So with the money being so easily and readily available, it created artificial demand, which drove up house prices, and that's why we saw such a big correction when that occurred. Fast forward to 2022, what's driving the demand now is the fact that you've got the largest generation we've ever had, the millennials, are hitting prime buying age, and over the next 3 or 4 years, the biggest portion of the millennials, where there's the most people, are pushing through into that prime buying age. So there's going to be continued demand. Couple that with the fact that the economy right now is good, people have jobs, people have money, and the underwriting guidelines that were very, very lax in the Great Recession have stayed strict and stayed very solid through today. To give you a quick example, if you go back to, I think it was 2000, let me look, I've got it here in front of me, 2008, there were 3.1 million foreclosures in the United States. That's a lot of foreclosures. In 2021, there were 92,000. That's a pretty big drop, and that gives you an idea of kind of where the housing market is, but also where the loan quality is. So that's a pretty big thing. So let's go on to number two, and we're kind of talking about housing and housing pricing. All the analysts that I've been able to get information from, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Mortgage Bankers Association, the Realtor Association, economists, all those folks are saying that house pricing is going to definitely slow. The appreciation has to slow, but it is not going to go negative. So house prices aren't going to come down. They're just going to slow down on how much they appreciate. The forecast, specifically from the MBA's forecast, which is the Mortgage Banking Association, 2021 appreciation 17.6%. This is nationwide. That's pretty stout, and it's not really very sustainable. 2022, they're anticipating only about 6 to 7% appreciation this year. 2023, 2.3% appreciation, and then 2024 back up to a normal 4.3% appreciation. The interesting part about that is if you take a line that, house prices, they say real estate increases about 4% a year. And if you go back to like 1950 and draw a trend line for house pricing from 0 up to 4.4 at a 4% increase per year, the Great Recession, we obviously dropped way down, but with this burst in house prices, we're right back to about a 4% trend line, maybe slightly over right now. So we're really not that far off of where we'd expect real estate to be historically. So I don't think house prices are coming down. One of the things that's happening right now, and so let's get into the should I wait to buy. I think that there's a temporary opportunity being created. Rates have come up awfully quickly and scared a lot of buyers off. That is balancing the market a little bit. There's less buyers. The sellers' houses are sitting a little bit longer. And it always takes people a while to adjust to things. When interest rates go from the mid threes to the mid fours up to 6%, a lot of people just think, whoa, and they talk themselves out of doing anything because it's just gone up so much. But if you think about it, people think about it, they get used to it, they realize that rents are doing nothing but continuing to go up, and the forecast for rentals is actually supposed to go even higher over the next 2 or 3 years because there's still such a housing shortage. So rental is not going to get any cheaper, and buying is a pretty good deal. But during this 6-month period between when we just had this rate spike and where we are right now, I think there's an opportunity as a buyer for your buyers to jump in while things are a little bit calmer and before people kind of get adjusted to, okay, the new norm with rates. So that's kind of my 5-minute update on where I think the market is. I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Thanks so much.